lamp unto my feet, and a light unto my path. I shall not stumble. You make firm my steps, for you hold me in your hand. My strength is renewed as I walk in the power of your name. And you will raise me upon wings of eagles. And as I soar, I will soar with you. Fear not, Israel. Fear not, Israel. Yahuwah, Elohim is with you. Your word is a lamp unto my feet, and a light unto my path. I shall not stumble. You make firm my steps, for you hold me in your hand. My strength is renewed as I walk in the power of your name. And you will raise me upon wings of eagles. And as I soar, I will soar with you. Fear not, Israel. Fear not, Israel. Yahuwah, Elohim is with you. And you will raise me on wings of eagles. And as I soar, I will soar with you. Fear not, Israel. Fear not, Israel. Yahuwah, Elohim is with you. Fear not, Israel. 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 Yahuwah, Elohim is with you. Yahuwah, Elohim is with you.
Hear, O Yisrael, Yahuwah, our Elohim. Yahuwah is one, and you shall love Yahuwah, your Elohim, with all your heart, and with all your being, and with all your might. And these words which I am commanding you today shall be in your heart, and you shall impress them upon your children, and shall speak of them when you sit in your house, and when you walk by the way, and when you lie down, and when you rise up, and shall bind them as a sign on your hand, and they shall be as frontlets between your eyes. And you shall write them on the doorpost of your house and on your gates. And the second is like it. You shall love your neighbor as yourself. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. Shabbat shalom, everyone. Glad you're all here. Been a really super duper fast week this week. I don't know what happened. This week just flew by. Where'd it go? I have no idea where it went. But happy to be here. Happy that it's the Shabbat. And it's a day of delight, and day of celebration, day of observance, a day to praise and worship the Creator. And so we'll take every advantage of every minute of it in obedience to our Master, Yahuwah. Okay, so I think we got a really good study here this evening. I think something that's needs to be studied and talked about. And it's kind of really about the harvest and working the harvest by gathering its fruit, which is the lost sheep of Yisharal. That's what we are to be doing. This is what Yahusha did when he came to find the lost sheep, that which was lost. And since we are his servants and he lives through us now, we no longer live for ourselves, but he lives through us, then this is what he's continuing to do. So if you're not looking for the lost sheep, you are not the vessel of Yahusha. If you have the Ruach HaKodesh in you, then you would be very concerned and very busy working the harvest and gathering its fruit. Okay, so some of you may think or say or ask, what are we supposed to be doing to find the lost sheep? Well, when we enter into the everlasting covenant, we've entered into the flock, then we become sheep. There's only one shepherd. The true shepherd is Yahusha. All right. As sheep, in his absence, we'll just say, so people can clearly understand what I'm laying down here, can pick up what I'm laying down. In his absence, we can become a shepherd if he calls us to be that, but we are only a hireling. We're not the true shepherd. And so we must be very vigilant and very careful and mindful about guarding someone else's property, speaking of our master's property, and be careful of what we are doing. And don't ever forget that we are hireling shepherds. We're not the shepherd. We're sheep, just like everybody else. All sheep are the same, other than there are mature sheep and there are lambs. And there's babies, there's children, okay, which we have to be very, very careful of in this search for the lost sheep. Okay, so we are going to look, and we should be looking for what is lost. This is the fruit that we are going to gather. So some may think and say, well, Yahuwah knows who are his. He knows who his sheep are. Why do we have to hunt for the sheep? Obviously, he can call to his sheep and call them out, and he can gather them anytime he wants to, anywhere he wants to. And so why do we have to do it? Well, there's a simple reason for that. And that reason is because being in the flock, in the everlasting covenant, once we enter and become his servant, we are under obligation to gather fruit. As a matter of fact, we have to bring fruit with us into the reign of Yahuwah, or we ain't going to get in. More than likely, we ain't getting in. That's what Scripture says anyway. And we'll get to that toward the end. So through his compassion, his mercy, his love, his favor for his chosen, he gives us a way to gather fruit from his labors and from the labors of his prophets. So all we have to do then is go out and find the fruit, gather the lost sheep. And we have fruit in our baskets to bring with us to the reign of Yahuwah when the king comes back, so that we can be counted as worthy servants. If we show up by ourselves and say, yeah, here I am, I did everything I was supposed to do, there's a really good chance he's going to say, depart from me, I never knew you. Because you have brought no fruit. You did not create any gain for him when he trusted you with very little. You brought nothing. So it's a very critical thing to understand this. And I really feel like a lot of us just don't get it. We're just not understanding what we're supposed to be doing. Jump in a bathtub, come out, obey the 10 commandments, and hide in the house. I'm sorry, but that's not what we're supposed to be doing. None of us are. We have to work the harvest. We need to gather the fruit by finding the lost sheep. The lost sheep is the fruit. So we got to get it, man. It's time. The harvest is ripe. It's whitened for gathering. We need to get out there and find those white lost sheep and lambs as well. So some may say, well, what's the big rush, Brother Mark? What's the big rush? Why do we need to do this right now? Don't we have time? I mean, I'm really busy at work. I'm really busy trying to become evenly yoked with my wife, my children, because they're running astray, celebrating this holidays. It's driving me out of my mind. I don't really have time to go looking for lost sheep right now. So why is it so urgent? Well, the urgency has already been created. We're in the last days. No matter of fact, we're at the end of the last days and looking really, really close at the second coming of the Master. So time is not on our side at this point, folks. We need to recognize the urgency, and we need to put the working, doing Yahuwah's work above our own, because your life just may depend upon it, literally. The time is at hand, the second coming of the Messiah. How long? Could be a couple years, could be 4 years, could be 10 years, could be 12 years, but it's very close. Very close. So, yeah, this is why we're in a rush, and this is why we all need to get busy. Okay, so this is what we're going to talk about this evening. I'm going to say hello to a few people, and then we'll get started. Very vital, very critical subject here. I think we all need to pick up on this, so try to stick around for the completion of the study this evening. Very critical here. Sister Sandra Brunston, glad you're here. Brother Phil Dickey, glad you're here. Sister Peggy Russell, glad you're here. Sister Kate Connell, glad you're here. Brother Lou White, glad you're here. Sister Phyllis White, glad you're here. In a little while, glad you're here, sister. Mr. Three Jobs, glad you're here, John. I like that. Here I am. Here I am. Excellent, John. Elijah, MCC 321, glad you are here. Latterain, glad you're here. Tad Boyd, glad to see you, brother. Mom's with you. Glad to see you, Sister Mom. Okay. All righty. So we'll go ahead and get started this evening now. I want to start off here, continuing on with this urgency thing that we were just talking about. And we can kind of look at that, I guess, in a roundabout way, but very directly for those who have spiritual insight. And it would be in Luke 10. So everybody go to Luke 10, and we'll begin there. I'm in the BYNV, Luke 10. And after this, the master appointed 70 others and sent them 2 by 2 ahead of him into every city and place where he himself was about to go. All right. So this isn't the 12. This isn't Yehukanan the Immerser. This is 70 other pupils or Talmudim that was with him. Okay, so he had these 70 with him pretty much all the time as well. Okay. Then he said to them, the harvest indeed is great, but the workers are few. Therefore, pray the master of the harvest to send out workers into his harvest. Go, see, I send you out as lambs into the middle of wolves. Do not take a purse, nor a bag, nor sandals, and greet no one along the way. And whatever house you enter, first say, peace to this house. And if indeed a son of peace is there, your peace shall rest on it, and if not, it shall return to you. And stay in the same house, eating and drinking whatever with them, for the laborer is worthy of his wages. Do not move from house to house. And into whatever city you enter, and they receive you, eat whatever is placed before you. And heal the sick there, and say to them, the reign of Yahuwah has come near to you. And into whatever city you enter, and they do not receive you, go out into its streets and say, even the dust of your city, which clings to us, we wipe off against you. But know this, that the reign of Yahuwah has come near to you. And I say to you that it shall be more bearable for Sodom in that yom than for your city. So the reign of Yahuwah has come near to you. What does that mean? So this is the primary message of Yahuwah, Yahusha, and it simply means that you can. The reign of Yahuwah has come near to you. Is that when after he departed, after he was executed on the Roman executional stake, resurrected and ascended, comes back to Ruach HaKodesh. It's very close to happening here in this time. Okay. And so what does it mean to us in our era right now? Well, what it means now is you don't have to wait to die to experience the reign of Yahuwah. Okay. You can experience it right now by dying in your water immersion, being resurrected in the true pattern of Yahusha. And now you are in the reign of Yahuwah. You're in the spiritual realm. Okay. So you have, it has come near to you. Now you're in it. You're in it. If you've entered the everlasting covenant, you are in the reign of Yahuwah right now. Don't have to wait for it. It's here and available right now. Woe to you, Chorazin! Woe to you, Beth Zayada! For if the miracles which were done in you had been done in Zor and Zidon, they would have repented long ago, sitting in sackcloth and ashes. But it shall be more bearable for Zor and Zidon at the judgment than for you. And you, Kephar Nakum, who are exalted to the heaven, shall be brought down to the grave. He who hears you, hears me. He who rejects you rejects me. And he who rejects me rejects him who sent me. And the 70 returned with joy, saying, Master, even the demons are subject to us in your name. And he said to them, I saw Satan falling out of the heaven as lightning. See, I give you the authority to trample on serpents and scorpions and over all the power of the enemy, and none at all shall hurt you. Okay, so this is very intriguing here. I don't want to spend a whole lot of time on this, but we can. This is Yahusha off the cuff prophesying what was to come. And we see this prophecy in Revelations 12, verse 7 through 12, if you want to read what he was prophesying here to them. All right. And so this wasn't, he didn't see it right there and then. He was prophesying. All right. So the authority to trample on serpents and scorpions are obviously wicked demons, dark principalities of darkness, this type of thing. Okay. All right. But do not rejoice in this, that the Ruachs are subject to you, but rather rejoice because your names have been written in the Shamayim. So this has given us the attitude that we should have as we work the harvest, because you're going to run across these things just like they did. And you need to know how to deal with these things. And so rejoice because your names have been written in the Shamayim. Okay. Go to Revelation 13:8 real quick. Show you something. Revelations 13:8. It says, and all those dwelling on the Eretz, whose names have not been written in the book of life of the slain Lamb from the foundation of the world, shall worship him. Speaking of the beast, the anti-Mashiach. Okay. So obviously, if you're in the book of life of the slain Lamb, your name was written in there before the foundations of the world. You see that? Okay. But do not rejoice in this, that the Ruachs are subject to you, but rather rejoice because your names have been written in the Shamayim. There it is. So don't rejoice over the falling away or the falling down of your enemy or the defeat of your enemy. Okay, because they're Yahuwah's creation. If you can pick up what I'm laying down there, stay humble and just rejoice because your name has been written in the book of the Lamb from before the foundations of the world was laid. That's why you're in the everlasting covenant. That's why he's given you a chance to work the harvest and to bring in gather its fruit and present him with his fruit, with the first fruits of the harvest, which would be the lambs, the lost sheep. In that hour, Yahusha exalted in the Ruach and said, I praise you, Father, Master of the heaven and of the Eretz, that you have hidden these matters from clever and learned ones, and did reveal them to babes. Yes, Father, because thus it was well-pleasing in your sight. All has been delivered to me by my Father, and no one knows who the Son is except the Father, and who the Father is except the Son, and he to whom the Son wishes to reveal him. Okay, so here we go. This is a sure sign that you've been taught by Yahuwah, if you understand, or if you know who the Son is and what his name is, and if you know who the Father is and what his name is, you've been taught by Yahuwah. It's a sure sign of that. Okay. But wow, you hidden these matters from clever and learned ones. These matters that we speak of this evening is what this is talking about. They don't get it. Okay. They may have a master's degree. They may have a doctor be a doctor of theology. They may own a mega church. They may have all kinds of certificates and license and stuff hanging on their walls. Okay, but that doesn't mean they understand who Yahuwah is, who Yahusha is, and what he wants us to do. What you're learning here tonight, this evening, is above most of their heads. So you can be thankful and pray to the Heavenly Father for that, and him revealing these things to you. And turning to his students, he said separately, "Blessed are the eyes that see what you see. For I say to you that many prophets and sovereigns have wished to see what you see and have not seen it, and to hear what you hear and have not heard it. And see, a certain one learned in the Torah stood up, trying him or testing him, and saying, 'Teacher, what shall I do to inherit everlasting life?' And he said to him, 'What has been written in the Torah? How do you read it?' And he answered and said, 'You shall love Yahuwah your Elohim with all your heart and with all your being and with all your strength and with all your mind, and your neighbor as yourself.' And he said to him, 'You have answered rightly. Do this, and you shall live.' But he, wishing to declare himself just, said to Yahusha, 'And who is my neighbor? Who is my neighbor?' And replying, Yahusha said, 'A certain man was going down from Jerusalem.'" So here he's going to give him a parable. "To Jericho, and fell among robbers, who, both stripping and beating him, went away, leaving him half dead. And by a coincidence, a certain priest was going down that way. And when he saw him, he passed by on the other side. And likewise, a Levite also, when he came to the place, and seeing, passed by on the other side. But a certain Samaritan traveling came upon him, and when he saw him, he had compassion on him. And he went to him and bandaged his wounds, pouring on oil and wine. And having placed him on his own beast, he brought him to an inn and looked after him." Okay, so this is speaking of Yahusha, the Samaritan, good Samaritan. And he bandaged his wounds, poured on the oil, the Ruach HaKodesh, and the wine, the new teachings, and placed him on his own beast. He brought him to the inn and looked after him. And going out into the next yom, he took out 2 pieces of silver, gave them to the innkeeper, and said to him, "Look after him, and whatever more you spend, I shall repay you when I return." And so these 2 pieces of silver is a metaphor for 2 days. After he leaves, we have 2 days, and he will be back. Okay, and then he will shall repay you when I return. So he's going to return in 2 days. or 2,000 years after he left. That's what this is. Spiritual insight on this is. Who then of these three do you think was a neighbor to him who fell among the robbers? And he said, he who showed compassion on him. Then Yahusha said to him, go and do likewise. Go and do likewise, because you have to walk in the true pattern of Mashiach. Okay, so we have to not only find the lost sheep, we have to attend to them. We have to feed them. We have to take care of them. We have to feed the sheep. The living waters, the Ruach HaKodesh, they have to enter into the everlasting covenant, and then they must endure. They must endure to the end to be delivered. And they must endure to the end for you to get credit for finding them and gathering that fruit. Now, a lot of you might be saying, oh, what are you talking about, Brother Mark? Well, we're going to get into it, so stick around. And definitely toward the end, it's going to get really super deep. Maybe the deepest I've ever went at the end of this one. Okay, so with all that in mind now, let's go ahead and turn to Ezekiel. Ezekiel 34, please. And I hope you all are reading along with me here, because that's the best way to learn and to retain it. For some just listening, they can absorb more by just listening. So do whatever's best for you. And we'll get going here on Ezekiel 34. Okay, lots of reading here. And the word of Yahuwah came to me, saying, Son of man, prophesy against the shepherds of Yisharal. Prophesy and say to them, Thus said the Master Yahuwah to the shepherds, Woe to the shepherds of Yisharal, who have been feeding themselves. Should not the shepherds feed the flock? Now, spiritually, you can see this as they were feeding themselves off the manna from heaven, and drinking the living waters and not sharing, keeping it to themselves. That's not good. Right off the get-go, we learn here, woe to the shepherds of Israel who have been feeding themselves. Should not the shepherds feed the flock? There's a huge warning right off the get-go. If you see the spiritual implication to this, it should send shivers up your spine. You eat the fat and you put on the wool. You slaughter the fatlings. You do not feed the flock. You're just doing it for your own eternal destination. You got to find the lost sheep, the skinny, the frail, the starving, the thirsty, the wounded, the crippled. These ones are skin and bones. Maybe surrounded by wolves, getting ready to get destroyed. We got to help them, man. Got to. You have not strengthened the weak, nor have you healed the sick, nor bound up the broken, nor brought back the straying, nor sought what was lost. But you have ruled them with might and harshness. Wow. Anybody scared yet? And they were scattered because there was no shepherd. Don't forget, we are also sheep, but we can be hirelings. He can hire his sheep to go out and search for the lost sheep. And they were scattered because there was no shepherd. and they became food for all the beasts of the field when they were scattered. Wow. So they're being consumed by the false shepherds, or the false prophets are consuming them. They have no shepherd. They're being led astray by the false shepherds. My sheep wander through all the mountains and on every high hill, and my sheep were scattered over all the face of the earth, and no one was seeking or searching for them. Therefore, you shepherds, hear the word of Yahuwah. As I live, declares the Master Yahuwah, because my flock became a prey, and my flock became food for every beast of the field. Field represents the world. From not having a shepherd, and my shepherds did not search for my flock. But the shepherds fed themselves and did not feed my flock. The living words, the living waters. Therefore, shepherds, hear the word of Yahuwah. Thus said the Master Yahuwah, see, I am against the shepherds, and shall require my flock at their hand, and shall make them cease feeding the sheep, and the shepherds shall feed themselves no more. And I shall deliver my flock from their mouths, and they shall no longer be food for them. For thus said the Master Yahuwah, see, I myself shall search for my sheep and seek them out. Wow. As a shepherd seeks out his flock on the day he is among his scattered sheep, so I shall seek out my sheep and deliver them from all the places where they were scattered in the day of cloud and thick darkness. What's that? Oh, that's the day of Yahuwah. And I shall bring them out from the peoples and gather them from the lands, and shall bring them to their own land. And I shall feed them on the mountains of Yisharal, in the valleys, and in all the dwellings of the land. In good pasture I shall feed them, and their fold shall be on the high mountains of Yisharal. They shall lie there in a good fold, and feed in rich pasture on the mountains of Yisharal. I shall feed my flock and make them lie down, declares the Master Yahuwah. I shall seek out the lost and bring back the strayed, and I shall bind up the broken and strengthen what was sick, but the fat and the strong I shall destroy. I shall feed them with right ruling. And as for you, O my flock, thus said the Master Yahuwah, see, I am judging between sheep and sheep, between rams and goats. Wow. Wow, wow, wow. So he's building up his third temple with stones not made by hands. He's judging between the sheep. Okay, see which one fits. If it don't fit, he's going to take it and toss it on the ground, get another one, put it on, and find one that fits just perfect as he erects his third temple, his body. And between the rams and the goats is a judgment day. You replace if you're a sheep, you'll come on his right side. If you're a goat, you'll be going to his left side and being thrown into the lake of fire. Yes, he does have another flock, and we're going to get into that. It is not enough for you to have eaten up the good pasture, and the rest of your pasture you trample with your feet, or that you should drink on the clear mayam, and the rest you muddy with your feet. And as for my flock, they eat what you have trampled with your feet, and they drink what you have muddied with your feet. Therefore, thus said the Master Yahuwah to them, see, I myself shall judge between fat and lean sheep, because you have pushed with flank and shoulder, and thrust at all the weak ones with your horns, and scattered them abroad. Therefore I shall save my flock, and let them no longer be a prey. And I shall judge between sheep and sheep, and I shall raise up over them one shepherd. So if he's going to judge between sheep and sheep, which is his sons, his chosen Yisharal, then he definitely shows favor between his chosen. Up over them one shepherd, my shepherd Daud, and he shall feed them. He shall feed them and be their shepherd, and I, Yahuwah, shall be their Elohim, and my servant Daud a prince in their midst. I, Yahuwah, have spoken. And I shall make a covenant of peace with them, and make evil beasts cease from the land, and they shall dwell safely in the wilderness and sleep in the forest. And I shall make them and the places all around my hill a blessing, and shall cause showers to come down in their season. Showers of blessings they are. And the trees of the field shall yield their fruit, and the arets yield her increase, and they shall be safe in their land, and they shall know that I am Yahuwah, when I have broken the bars of their yoke. Wow. And I shall deliver them from the hand of those who enslaved them, and they shall no longer be a prey for the nations, and the beast of the Eret shall not devour them, and they shall dwell safely with no one to make them afraid. And I shall rise up for them a planting place of name, and they shall no longer be consumed by hunger in the land, nor bear the shame of the nations any more. And they shall know that I, Yahuwah, their Elohim, am with them, and that they, the house of Yisharal, are my people, declares the Master Yahuwah. And you, my flock, the flock of my pasture, are men. And I am your Elohim, declares the Master Yahuwah. Wow, that's some powerful stuff right there. So if you have any doubt about who these sheep are, he just erased that doubt. Very clearly said, and you, my flock, the flock of my pasture, are men. So the sheep are men. His sheep are men. These flock are men. It says it right there. And I am your Elohim, declares the Master Yahuwah. So very powerful stuff. So I hope we're all now tuned in to this, and we can see how deep that this is actually going to go. All right. So staying on track here, we should be at least starting to understand, and if you don't, you're going to here just in a few minutes, that Yisharal has been scattered. Okay. Matter of fact, I think I'm going to pause right here and talk to you for a little bit. After the reign of King Solomon, the nation of Israel actually split into two kingdoms: the southern kingdom, which was represented by Yehuda and Benjamin, and the northern kingdom, which was represented by the other 10 tribes. Okay, the other 10 tribes here can be simply be called Yisharal, okay, or Israel, okay, and they are often also called or known as Joseph, Yusuf, or Ephraim. Okay, so the northern tribes, when he refers to Joseph or Ephraim or Yisharal, that's what he's talking about. Yehuda is Yehuda and Benjamin, the southern kingdom. Okay, so they were split into two kingdoms. Okay, all right. So while both of these kingdoms did sin and commit idolatry, Yehuda did return for the most part from their exiles, and they still exist today over in Yisrael, is what we know as Yisrael today, and most people use the term Jew to identify them. So the 10 northern tribes, however, were scattered and were sent out into the nations, into the world, and became lost when they didn't find their way back. Okay, so they were lost sheep scattered among the nations. Some of the members of these 10 tribes did, in fact, return to the promised land, to Israel, but by far the mass majority did not. They became lost in the world. Okay, so when you hear scripture talking about the lost sheep, generally it's talking about, for the most part, Yisrael or Ephraim, Joseph. So because of their idolatry, Yahuwah broke the bonds of the brotherhood between Yehuda and Joseph, okay, which is also called Ephraim and Yisrael, okay. So in Zechariah 11:14 tells us this. It says, then I cut in two my other staff, unity, that I might break the brotherhood between Yehuda and Yisrael. Okay. So according to the Hebrew mindset, if you will, the anosmy between Joseph and his brothers, who were the children of Jacob or Yisrael. The story foreshadows this later split between Yehuda and Benjamin with the other tribes of Yisrael, which were Ephraim. Okay, and in this story, in other words, was a type or foreshadow of that. So in Ezekiel 37, which we're going to get into here right now, it's an amazing prophecy. Yahuwah promises here in this chapter that one day there will again be unity between the brotherhood, between these two kingdoms. Ezekiel 37:19 says, surely say to them, thus said the Master, you shall see, I am taking the stick of Joseph, which is in the hand of Ephraim, and the tribes of Israel, his companions, and I give them to him with the stick of Yehuda, and make them one stick, and they shall be one in my hand. Okay, so he's promising that he's going to reunite the brotherhood and make them into one kingdom again. All right, and to make sure that there's no understanding about this, Yahuwah plainly and clearly explains the prophetic symbolism in this Ezekiel 37 prophecy in the verses 21 and 22. All right, so it says, and speak to them, thus said the Master Yahuwah, say, I am taking the children of Israel from among the nations, wherever they have gone, and shall gather them from all around, and I shall bring them into their land. And I shall make them one nation in the land on the mountains of Yisharal, and one sovereign shall be sovereign over them all. and let them no longer be two nations, and let them no longer be divided into two reigns. So you see, he clearly explains this prophecy, this reuniting the brotherhood here, okay? And so what's this all meaning to us? Well, they're the lost sheep. We need to help find them, to bring them back into the one fold, under one Yahuwah and one kingdom. That's what we're commissioned to do. Yahusha knows his sheep, who they are, and they know his voice. We just simply need to do the footwork, if you will. And so keep that all in mind, because this is why the lost sheep are out in the world, because they're part of the scattered tribes, the northern kingdom. It's who they are. They didn't return. They're exiled. They're scattered. They're lost. And we get to help find them. And when we do, we get credit for the fruit, gathering the fruit of the harvest. And by doing so, we are accepted into the reign of Yahuwah as good servants. Good servants. Worthy servants. The last thing we want to hear is you come up there and let me in. He says, I don't know you. I don't know who you are. Depart from me, you who work lawlessness. Where's the fruit? You have no fruit with you. Depart from me, you unworthy servant. Cast you into the outer darkness. Well, there will be weeping and gnashing of the teeth, folks. But really, there's even there's even a greater reconciliation really to come, in which is happening really right now as we speak. And if we look prophetically at that's the story of Joseph, we can see what Joseph would, and understand what Joseph said. And he said, "Anad Joseph," which means I am Joseph, your brother. Likewise, Yahusha one day will say, Ani Yahusha, I am your salvation and your brother and your Mashiach. Hallelujah. So when the Yehudim, Israel, recognize Yahusha HaMashiach as their Mashiach, there will be a great consolation that will bring about life-giving change all over the world. And that day is coming soon, very soon. Romans 11:15 says, for if their being cast away is the recounseling of the world, what will their acceptance be but life from the dead? So, as you can see, I hope what you're seeing now is that the lost sheep is the fruit of the harvest, and why we're all here, over here in this part of the world, because we're lost. And so this is what we do when we work the harvest. All right, so let's get into it now a little bit more here in Ezekiel 37. It explains fairly well that Israel is lost in the nations and is the lost sheep. The hand of Yahuwah was upon me and took me out of the Ruach of Yahuwah and set me down in the midst of the valley. And it was filled with bones. And he made me pass among them all around, and see, there were very many on the surface of the valley, and see, they were all very dry. And he said to me, Son of man, would these bones live? And I said, O Master Yahuwah, you know. Again he said to me, prophesy to these bones, and you shall say to them, dry bones, hear the word of Yahuwah. Thus said the Master Yahuwah to these dry bones, see, I am bringing into you a ruach, and you shall live. And I shall put sinews on you, and bring flesh upon you, and cover you with skin, and put a ruach in you, and you shall live. And you shall know that I am Yahuwah. And I prophesied as I was commanded, and as I prophesied, there was a noise, and there was a rattling, and the bones came together, bone to bone. And I looked and saw sinews and flesh came upon them, and skin covered them, but there was no ruach in them. He then said to me, prophesy to the ruach, prophesy, son of man, and you shall say to the ruach, thus said the Master Yahuwah, come from the four winds, ruach, and breathe on these slain, so that they live. And I prophesied as he commanded me, and the ruach came into them, and they lived and stood upon their feet, a very great army. And he said to me, son of man, these bones are all the house of Yisharal. See, they say, our bones are dry, our hope has perished, and we ourselves have been cut off. Therefore prophesy, and you shall say to them, thus said the Master Yahuwah, see, O my people, I am opening your graves, and shall bring you up from your graves, and shall bring you into the land of Yisharal. This may be speaking of the first resurrection here now. Don't forget, Yisrael are those who are of the fold, those who are in the everlasting covenant. And you shall know that I am Yahuwah when I open your graves, O my people, and bring you up from your graves. And I shall put my ruach in you, and you shall live, and I shall settle you in your own land, and you shall know that I, Yahuwah, have spoken, and I have done it, declares Yahuwah. And the word of Yahuwah came to me, saying, and you, son of man, take a stick for yourself and write on it. This is also known as the two-stick prophecy of Ezekiel. And some of you may be familiar. If not, listen very closely to this. This is very powerful stuff here. For Yehuda and for the children of Yisharal, those are the two kingdoms. His companions. Then take another stick and write on it for Joseph, the stick of Ephraim, and for all the house of Yisharal, his companions. So don't forget Joseph, Ephraim, and Yisrael, speaking of the northern tribes. Okay. And these are the lost sheep. Now, Yehuda has some lost sheep too. Some of them got lost and didn't come back. For the most part, they went back after their exiles. Then bringing them together for yourself into one stick, and they shall become one in your hand, back to being one nation now. And when the children of your people speak to you, saying, won't you show us what you mean by this, by these? Say to them, thus said the Master Yahuwah, see, I am taking the stick of Joseph, which is in the hand of Ephraim, and the tribes of Yisrael, his companions. That's the northern tribes, the 10 northern tribes. And I shall give them to him with the stick of Yehuda, and make them one stick, and they shall be one in my hand. And the sticks on which you write shall be in your hand before their eyes, and speak to them. Thus said the Master Yahuwah. See, I am taking the children of Yisrael from among the nations, wherever they have gone, and shall gather them from all around, and I shall bring them into their land. And I shall make them one nation in the land. on the mountains of Yisharal, and one sovereign shall be sovereign over them all. And let them no longer be two nations, and let them no longer be divided into two reigns. And they shall no longer defile themselves with their idols, nor with their disgusting things, nor with any of their transgressions. And I shall save them from all their dwelling places in which they have sinned, and I shall cleanse them, and they shall be my people, and I be their Elohim. So here it's written, man. He's going to find his lost sheep and bring them back and unite them back together as one nation, one people, one under one Yahuwah. So, as I said earlier, people say, "Well, Yahuwah going to do all this anyway. Why do we have to look for the lost sheep? Why do we have to worry about that?" And as I was saying, because He's allowing you to work the harvest and take advantage of the labor, His labor and the labor of His prophets, so that you may bring fruit into His reign. Okay, so that you be counted as a worthy servant. It's really favor, and He's doing it out of His compassion and love for you. So don't take it lightly. Don't blow it off. It's extremely important what He's doing. While Daud, my servant, is sovereign, yes, we're going to get into that. While Daud, my servant, is sovereign over them, and they shall all have one shepherd and walk in my right rulings and guard my laws and shall do them. And they shall dwell in the land that I have given to Jacob, my servant, where your fathers dwelt. And they shall dwell in it, they and their children and their children's children forever. And my servant Daud be their prince forever. And I shall make a covenant of peace with them, an everlasting covenant it is with them. And I shall place them and increase them, and shall place my set apart place in their midst forever. And my dwelling place shall be over them, and I shall be their Elohim, and they shall be my people. And the nations shall know that I, Yahuwah, am setting Yisharal apart, when my set apart place is in their midst forever. Wow. Okay, so now we're seeing who the children of Israel are. Who the lost sheep are. They're the children of Yisharal. All right, so He's looking for the lost sheep. His intentions are to gather them, find them all, gather them all together into one place, and they be His people, and He be their Elohim. And so this is important work. Let's take a look into Zechariah here a little bit, and then we'll get into the Nazarene writings. Well, I think it's important for us to understand, get the connection in the prophets before we go into the Nazarene writings. So let's look at Zechariah 10. Zechariah 10. The Nazarene writings, it clears up very quickly about the shepherds and the sheep and the harvest and the fruits and all this. Okay, but we need this base here before we get there. So here we go. Zechariah 10. Ask Yahuwah for rain in the time of the latter rain. Yahuwah who makes storm clouds. Yahuwah who makes storm clouds. And He gives them showers of rain, the plants in the field to everyone. For the household idols spoke emptiness. The diviners saw falsehood and relate dreams of deceit. They comfort in vain. Therefore they have wandered about like sheep. They are afflicted, for there is no shepherd. My wrath burns against the shepherds, and I lay a charge against the leaders. For Yahuwah Sabaoth shall visit his flock, the house of Yehudah, and make them like his splendid horse in battle. From him comes the cornerstone, which is Yahusha, and cornerstone, from him the tent peg, from him the battle bow, from him every ruler together. And they shall be like mighty men, who trample down the mud of the streets in the battle. And they shall fight because Yahuwah is with them. And the riders on horses shall be put to shame. And I shall make the house of Yehudah mighty, and save the house of Joseph, or Yisrael, or Ephraim. Remember, that's 3 are the 10 tribes, the lost sheep. And I shall bring them back, because I have compassion on them. And they shall be as though I had not pushed them aside. For I am Yahuwah their Elohim, and I answer them. And Ephraim shall be as a mighty man, and their heart shall rejoice as if with wine, and their children shall see and rejoice, their heart exulting in Yahuwah. I shall whistle for them and gather them, for I shall ransom them, and they shall increase as they once increased. Though I saw them among peoples, they shall remember me in places far away, and they shall live together with their children, and they shall return. And I shall bring them back from the land of Mitzrayim, and gather them from Asher, and bring them into the land of Gilead and Lebanon, until no more room is found for them. And he shall pass through the sea of the distress, and strike the waves of the sea, and all the dips of the river shall dry up, and the pride of Asher shall be brought down, and the scepter of Mitzrayim be taken away. And I shall make them mighty in Yahuwah, so that they walk up and down in his name, declares Yahuwah. Wow. No doubt he's wanting to find the lost sheep, right? Open your doors, continuing in 11. Lebanon, and let fire devour your cedars. Howl, Cypress, for the cedar has fallen, because the mighty are ravaged. Howl, oaks of Bashan, for the dense forest has come down. Listen, the howling of shepherds, for their splendor is ravaged. Listen, the roaring of lions, for the pride of the Yarden is ravaged. Thus said Yahuwah my Elohim, feed the flock for slaughter, whose owners slaughter them and feel no guilt, and their sellers say, blessed be Yahuwah, for I have become rich, and their own shepherds do not spare them. For I shall no longer spare the inhabitants of the land, declares Yahuwah. But see, I am delivering up mankind, each one into his neighbor's hand, and into the hand of his sovereign. And they shall crush the Eretz, but I do not deliver from their hand. So I shepherd the flock meant for slaughter, the truly poor of the flock, and I took for myself 2 staffs. The one I called pleasantness, and the other I called unity. And I shepherd the flock. Then I sent off the 3 shepherds in 1 moon, for my being despised them, and their being also loathed me. So I said, I am not shepherding you. Let the dying die and the straying stray, and let those who are left eat each other's flesh. And I took my staff, pleasantness, and cut it in 2, to break the covenant which I had made with all the peoples. So it was broken on that yom, and the poor of the flock who were watching me knew that it was the word of Yahuwah. And I said to them, if it is good in your eyes, give me my wages, and if not, refrain. So they weighed out for my wages 30 pieces of silver, and said to me, throw it to the potter, the splendid price at which I was valued by them. And I took the 30 pieces of silver and threw them into the house of Yahuwah for the potter. Okay, so this is speaking of Yahusha. Then I cut in two my other staff, unity, to break the brotherhood between Yehuda and Yisharal. And Yahuwah said to me, take again the implements of a foolish shepherd. For look, I am raising up a shepherd in the land who does not visit those straying, nor seek the young, nor heal those that are broken, nor feed those that still stand. But he does eat the flesh of the fat and tear off their hooves. Woe to the worthless shepherd forsaking the flock. Let a sword be upon his arm and upon his right eye. His arm shall wither and his right eye shall be dimmed. Wow. Okay, so this is prophesying of everything we just talked about. All right, so Zechariah 13, then 6 through 9 says, and one shall say to him, what are these wounds in your hands? And he shall say, because I was wounded at home by those who love me. O sword, awake against my shepherd, against the man who is my companion, declares Yahuwah Zaboeth. Smite the shepherd and let the sheep be scattered. But I shall turn my hand upon the little ones. And it shall be throughout all the soil, declares Yahuwah, that 2/3 therein are cut off and die, and 1/3 is left therein. And I shall bring the third into fire and refine them as silver is refined, and try them as gold is tried. They shall call on my name, and I shall answer them. I shall say, this is my people, while they say, Yahuwah is my Elohim. So we can look at this several ways. We can see this as 1/3 of the sheep will be delivered, 2/3 will be destroyed. Or we can even put it on a grander scale and of all mankind during the second resurrection, the white throne judgment, as all mankind's judged. You know, we can see it that way as well. 1/3's the sheep, 2/3 are the goats. But at however you want to see that, the ratio is not promising in humanity's favor for sure. Okay, all right. So I everything there is just confirmation about what we were talking about. And so now let's just go ahead and go into the Nazarene writings now and see if we can clarify all this for you so that everybody can see this just a little bit clearer on a little bit deeper level. All right, so let's go to probably, let's start in Luke 15, perhaps. Luke 15. This will kind of set the stage here for us as we try to clarify all this now, and so it makes more sense to everybody and what we should be doing. What we're commissioned to do. Okay. It says, now all the tax collectors and the sinners were coming to him to hear him. And the Prushim, where the Pharisees and scribes, grumbled, saying, this one receives sinners and eats with them? And he spoke this parable to them, saying, what man among you, having 100 sheep, and having lost one of them, does not leave the 99 in the wilderness and go after the one which is lost until he finds it? And having found it, he lays it on his shoulders, rejoicing. And having come home, he calls together his friends and neighbors, saying to them, Rejoice with me, for I have found my sheep which was lost. I say to you that in the same way there shall be more joy in the heaven over one sinner repenting than over 99 just ones who need no repentance. Wow. So this is huge if you think about it. So I want 99 people that need no repentance, okay? And they're doing everything they're supposed to do, but one got lost and went astray, but then came back and was found, came back, and there's more rejoicing over that one sinner. Why? Because he was heading for the lake of fire. He was going to be annihilated, but now he's not. The 99 was a sure bet, but he's not even willing, the good shepherd's not even willing to lose one of his sheep. He doesn't, he wants all people to repent, all his sheep to repent and come home into the fold. So it's very important for us to search out these lost sheep. You can see the importance here to the shepherd. He has more joy over one sinner repenting or finding that one lost sheep than over 99 just ones who need no repentance. It's very important to him. So no wonder if you come to the reign with fruit, he lets you in, even if it's just one more. It delights him. He has much joy and he lets you in. So you got to at least bring one. Find one lost sheep. Okay, so then of course, the next one, the whole chapter really is about the lost sheep. Let's just read it. Or what eye shall have in 10 silver coins, if she loses one coin, does not light a lamp and sweep the house and seek diligently till she finds it. And having found it, she calls friends and neighbors together, saying, Rejoice with me, for I have found the coin which I lost. I say to you, in the same way, there is joy in the presence of the messengers of Elohim over one sinner repenting. So there we go. I'm just reinforcing it, how important it is for you to show up with one, at least one more, not just yourself, but with one, you and one more. Powerful stuff, man. Now here's a prodigal son parable here. It's really probably misunderstood by most, but I think most people have the general idea of this parable. I don't think they have the full understanding of it. So let's just take a look at it. And we'll go from there. So it says, and he said, a certain man had 2 sons. So this is Yahusha telling these stories, these parables. A certain man had 2 sons. Now these 2 sons would be Ephraim and Yehuda. Okay, if we can understand that right off the get-go, maybe we can get it a little bit better. Okay, so Ephraim would be the lost sheep, and then Yehuda would represent the 99 who need no repentance. Okay, so and the younger of them said to his father, Father, give me the portion of goods falling to me. And he divided his wealth between them. And not many days after, the younger son, having gathered all together, went away to a distant country, and there wasted his goods with loose living. Yeah, they were scattered out to the nations with loose living. And when he had spent all, there arose a severe scarcity of food throughout that land, and he began to be in need. they had forgotten Yahuwah, and they had forgotten Torah. They were no longer obeying Torah. So there was a severe scarcity of the manna from heaven, food, living water. All right. And he went and joined himself to one of the citizens of that country, and he sent him to his fields to feed pigs. So he began worshiping other mighty ones as the citizens in that country that he was lost in were doing. So he began practicing their worshiping their mighty ones and their religious practices. And he was longing to fill his stomach with the pods which the pigs were eating, and no one gave to him. But having come to himself, he said, "How many of my father's hired servants have bread enough and to spare, and I am perishing with hunger." This is on a high spiritual understanding, if you can pick up what it's laying down, okay? They have plenty of manna from heaven to eat, okay, his father's hired servants, the hirelings, and but he has none. He's not getting fed any of the living bread from heaven. He's not getting any of the living waters. He's without Torah. He doesn't remember Yahuwah. Okay. Having risen, I shall go to my father and say to him. Now he woke up. He woke up and remembered who he was. Why? Because the curse was over. That's why. The curse ended. Having risen, I shall go to my father and say to him, Father, I have sinned against heaven and before you, and I am no longer worthy to be called your son. Make me like one of your hired servants. So here's a confession and repentance. And having risen, he went to his father, and while he was still a long way off, but he had confessed and repented, but he was still a long way off, okay, his father saw him and was moved with compassion and ran and fell on his neck and kissed him. So here, this is representing the tearful reunion here of the son and the father, okay, of the lost sheep with the father, with Yahuwah, and his lost sheep. It was like a tearful reunion here. And we can even look at it as a tearful union between Ephraim and Yehuda as well, when they're reunited back into one nation. And the son said to him, Father, I have sinned against heaven and before you, and I am no longer worthy to be called your son. But the father said to his servants, bring out the best robe and put it on him, and put a ring on his hand and sandals on his feet. And bring the fattened calf here and slaughter it, and let us eat and rejoice. That's the wedding feast. Because this son of mine was dead and is alive again. He's reborn. This could be speaking of Yisrael's rebirth in 1948 as well. The fig tree blossomed. Okay, we could refer to that in a deeper spiritual sense. Because this son of mine was dead and is alive again, and he was lost and is found. That's Yisharal. And they began to rejoice that he was lost and is found. And his older son was in the field, and when he came and approached the house, he heard music and dancing. And having called one of the servants, he asked what this meant. And he said to him, your brother has come, and your father has slaughtered the fattened calf, because he received him back in health. He received him back in health. And he was angry and would not go in. So his father came out and pleaded with him. And answering, he said to his father, see, these many years I have been serving you, and I have never transgressed a command of yours. But to me you have never given a young goat, so I could rejoice with my friends. But when the son of yours came, who has squandered your wealth with whores, you slaughtered the fattened calf for him. So this was idol worshiping. He was doing idol worshiping. Squandered your wealth with whores of idols. Then he said to him, Son, you are always with me, and all I have is yours. And we had to rejoice and be glad, for your brother was dead and is alive, and was lost and is found. There's the lost sheep. That's why we have to find them. That's why you're commissioned to find the lost sheep. You see that? Find Yisrael, the lost sheep. Gather in the fruits of the harvest, man. Okay, so really, really cool. A lot of spiritual insight there. A lot more. Don't have time to go over it. But let's just get another look here at some more stuff here on the shepherd and sheep and fruits and stuff. All right, let's go backtrack back to John, Yehukanan 10, 1 through 18. So Yehukanan 10, 1 through 18 says, Truly, truly, I say to you, he who does not enter through the door into the sheepfold, but climbs up by another way, that one is a thief and a robber. But he who enters through the door is the shepherd of the sheep. Okay, so the doorkeeper opens for him, and the sheep hear his voice, and he calls his own sheep by name and leads them out. And when he has brought out his own sheep, he goes before them, and the sheep follow him because they know his voice. And they shall by no means follow a stranger, but shall flee from him because they do not know the voice of strangers. Okay, so if you have the Ruach HaKodesh in you, you're not going to follow any false teachings, any false shepherd. You know the voice, you recognize the voice of your shepherd, which is Yahusha. This is real interesting because the door is Yahusha. So the door in Hebrew here is the deleth is means, and it's the door, the D. Okay, and if you have Yahuwah's name and you insert and you put the D in there, you have Yehudah, right? And so the D is Yahusha. It's just the same. You got to go through the door. Yahusha's the door. You must enter into green pasture or into the presence of Yahuwah. You have to enter through the shepherd. Okay, now the sheep, the ones who enter through the door through Yahusha are the shepherd of the sheep. Is also sheep, but they're been chosen as temporary shepherds, okay, to feed the flock, to take care of the sheep, all right, by the true shepherd. And so you're a hireling, and so you're going to be held at a higher level, and you're going to be held at a very high level of responsibility by watching over the lost sheep that have been found. So not only are you going to be required to find the lost sheep, but if you're considered a shepherd, then you're going to be required to take care of those lost sheep and to shepherd them in the absence of the true shepherd, which brings on much more responsibility. Okay. We seeing that? So I mean, it'll go open up even more and more as we continue on. You'll see that the fruit is the lost sheep. That this is what we're trying to find and gather and bring into the fold through the door. Okay. Yahuwah used this figure of speech. See, it's a figure of speech, okay? But we know, because we read it, that his sheep are men. We read that. So Yahuwah used this figure of speech, but they did not know what he had been saying to them. And they still don't. People don't get this. They have no idea what they're supposed to do. They don't understand they're supposed to bring in the fruit, work the harvest, and bring in the fruit, which is the lost sheep or the fruit. No, people don't get that. Y'all are hearing truth, something that most people don't get to understand this, or they probably never even hear about it. Yahusha used this figure of speech, but they did not know what he had been saying to them. Yahusha therefore said to them again, truly, truly, I say to you, I am the door of the sheep. See, now he's given them a clear statement here about what he's talking about. I am the door of the sheep. All who came before me are thieves and robbers, but the sheep did not hear them. I am the door. Whoever enters through me, he shall be delivered and shall go in and shall go out and find pasture. Okay, so this is perfectly clear now. He cleared it up really fine. The sheep, in other words, you cannot work the harvest. You cannot find fruit or the lost sheep on your own. You can't do it. You can do nothing without Yahuwah, without Yahusha, man. You have to have the Ruach HaKodesh in you, because they're not going to hear your voice. Okay, they will hear his voice speaking through you. Even though they're hearing your voice, they know it's Yahusha speaking. They know the voice of the whistle of their master. They're the head shepherd. And therefore, if you don't have the Yahuwah, the Ruach HaKodesh, or Yahusha's Ruach in you, you're not going to be able to collect fruit. You have to have the Ruach. You have to enter into the everlasting covenant. You have to become a sheep into the sheepfold yourself before you can call out to the other sheep or become a shepherd. If not, then you're a robber. You're a thief. Okay, but the sheep did not hear them. All who came before me are thieves and robbers. See that? So they're stealing the sheep. They're not part of the sheepfold. They're not part of the reign of Yahuwah. You see that? The thief does not come except to steal and to kill and to destroy. Oh, there's the old devil, the old serpent. He's the false shepherd. He's the one calling them into through the back door, through the wrong door, pretending to be the shepherd, but is not. Oh, wow. I have come that they might possess life and that they might possess it beyond measure. I am the good shepherd. The good shepherd lays down his life for the sheep. But the hireling, and not being a shepherd, but just a sheep, one who does not own the sheep, in other words, here, see that? The one who doesn't own the sheep sees the wolf coming, which is the devil, and leaves the sheep and flees. And the wolf snatches the sheep and scatters them. Now the hireling flees because he is a hireling and is not concerned about the sheep. So he thinks he can save himself, working his own deliverance, okay, and be delivered. And the heck with the rest of the sheep, let the devil have them. But guess what? It doesn't work that way, and we're going to find that out as we continue to study. That's so powerful stuff right there. It's just mind-blowing, really. We'll get into that here a little bit deeper here in just a moment and get over into Matthew. I am the good shepherd, and I know mine, and mine know me. even as the Father knows me, and I know the Father, and I lay down my life for the sheep. Now listen to this. Here's where it gets really, really important to understand. And other sheep I have, which are not of this fold. I have to bring them as well, and they shall hear my voice, and there shall be one flock and one shepherd. So here we go. Now we can see this as Yehuda being the one flock, and then the other flock being the lost sheep. He has to find Ephraim or Yisrael, right? Or Joseph, right? But we can also see this just a little bit differently. We can see this as the first resurrection group and the second resurrection group. Okay. Because of this, the Father loves me, because I laid down my life in order to receive it again. No one takes it from me, but I lay it down of myself. I have authority to lay it down, and I have authority to receive it again. This command I have received from my Father. So here we find out that the Jews, the Romans, the Gentiles, nobody is responsible or guilty of killing the Mashiach. Okay, Christianity loves to tell you that the Jews killed the Messiah, so he threw them, cast them out, and now the church is the new Israel. It's replacement theology. That's not true at all. That's falsehood. That's from the devil. That's from a different shepherd, false shepherd. Okay, so that's not true whatsoever. Here, this John 10:18 clearly, and 17 and 18 clearly states that he laid down his life on his own because he wanted to. He didn't have to. I mean, he could have easily destroyed everybody right there, made them all drop dead. He could have vanished, disappeared, and got out of there. But he didn't. He stayed there and remained humble all the way to the stake and was killed on the Roman executioner's stake. Why? Because he wanted to. Nobody made him do it. He did it on his own. He will not give his esteem to another. And he's a good shepherd. He laid down his life for his sheep so his sheep could live. He died so his sheep could live with him in eternity. Okay, so let's jump over there now to 24. Same chapter, Yehukanan 10:24. So the Yehudim surrendered him and said to him, how long do you keep us in suspense? If you are the Mashiach, say it to us plainly. Yahusha answered them, I have told you, and you do not believe. The works that I do in my Father's name, they bear witness concerning me, that he is the Father incarnated, because nobody else could do the works that he was doing except for Yahuwah himself. But you do not believe because you are not of my sheep. You do not believe because you are not of my sheep. Boy, that hits you right there, doesn't it? Yeah, so if you're not believing, if you're having doubt, the possibility you're not his sheep. You belong to another. But you do not believe because you are not of my sheep, as I said to you. My sheep hear my voice, and I know them, and they follow me. And I give them everlasting life, and they shall by no means ever perish, and no one shall snatch them out of my hand. My Father who has given them to me is greater than all, and no one is able to snatch them out of my Father's hand. I and my Father are one. And the Yehudim picked up stones to stone him. So they wanted to kill him for saying that he was Yahuwah. That's why they wanted to stone him. You can read on and see that yourself. Now, go ahead and finish reading that if you want to. But that's why they understood plainly that what he was proclaiming, and that is that he was the Father himself incarnated, standing in front of them. And that's why they wanted to pick up stones and kill him, stone him to death. All right. Let's just continue on then from there. Go to John 12. John 12:24 says, 24 and 26. Truly, truly, I say to you, unless a grain of wheat falls into the ground and dies, it remains alone. But if it dies, it bears much fruit. Okay, obviously, literally speaking of Yahusha here, right? That Yahusha would die, and then once he dies, he would bear much fruit. Would come from him, right? And this would be those who are delivered, and given life. We can see this in a little different way as being in our water immersion. So pertaining to us spiritually, I say to you, unless a grain of wheat. So we are the wheat. We're not the tars, okay, or the weeds. We're the wheat. So if the wheat falls into the ground, into the dirt, okay, and dies, it remains alone, unless it does. But if it dies, it bears much fruit. Okay, so you cannot bear fruit. You remain alone if you die without the Ruach HaKodesh in you. Okay, so in your water immersion, when you go under the water, you're dying with Mashiach. You're in the true pattern of Yahusha. Okay, so you put the old man to death. He dies. Okay, and then you're born again. As you come up through the water and the blood, you're resurrected Mashiach, and now you're a new creature, born from above, born of Yahuwah, right? Okay, so see that? And so now you're immersed with the Ruach HaKodesh. You come into the everlasting covenant. And now you are able to bear much fruit because you have Yahusha with you, living in you. So you can bear much fruit. Without him, we can do nothing. But with him, we can produce much fruit because we died with him and was born again, resurrected with him. Now he lives in us, which empowers us to find the lost sheep, to gather the fruit, to work the harvest, to increase the reign of Yahuwah. You seeing that? Y'all should be starting to see that a little bit clearer now. Let's go to John 21. We're staying Yehukanan here to 21. Look at 13. Okay. So here on this one, we really need to see something here. This is something that Yahusha said to Peter, and we need to see this clearly. Maybe a little bit out of place, but nevertheless, let's go to it. So Yehukanan 21:13-17 says, Yahusha came and took the bread and gave it to them, and the same with the fish. This was now the third time Yahusha was manifested to his pupils after he was raised from the dead. When therefore they had eaten breakfast, Yahushua said to Simon Kepha, Simon, son of Jonah, do you love me more than these? He said to him, Yes, master, you know that I love you. He said to him, Feed my lambs. Feed my lambs. So the lambs would be the babies, and we would be feeding them milk. Okay, not meat and potatoes, not wine, but milk. Okay, they are beginners, immature beginners, starters, just found, freshly found, perhaps weak, sick, lame, skinny, whatever, half starved. But these are the babes. All right. And he's telling him to feed my lambs. All right. Notice he says here, do you love me more than these? He said, yeah. He says, you know I love you. He said, feed my lambs. In other words, find the lost sheep, find the lambs, and take care of them. Feed them. See that? Shepherd the lambs. He said to him again a second time, Simon of Jonah, do you love me? He said to him, Yes, master, you know that I love you. He said to him, Shepherd my sheep. And here we go again now. Shepherd my sheep. So once the lost sheep have been found, we have to shepherd them, which means clean them up, lead them, take care of them, watch over them, feed them, the manna from heaven, give them the living waters to drink, and sustain them. Why? Because they must endure. It's not enough just to find them and feed them some manna from heaven and give them some living water, living words, and then leave them by on their own. So, okay, cool. I found you. You're on your own. Chalk one up for me. No, it's not good enough. You have to shepherd that sheep. You have to shepherd the sheep. He said to him a third time, Simon of Jonah, do you love me? Kepha was sad because he said to him the third time, do you love me? And he said to him, Master, you know all. You know that I love you. And Yahushua said to him, feed my sheep. So this here then would be the mature, the ones that are enduring, the ones that are full, the fatlings. Okay, they have lots of bread to eat, lots of water to drink. Okay, but they still need to be fed, and they have to still be taken care of. Okay, and they need to gain more spiritual insight. Okay, and so these are the different commands that Yahushua gave Peter as he's hiring him out to be a shepherd in his absence, to look over his sheep. Okay, shepherd his sheep, feed my lambs. Don't forget about the babes. You know, don't neglect the babes. And you know that before you can do all these things, before you can feed the lambs and shepherd the sheep and feed the sheep, we need to find them first, right? So they have to be found before we can take care of them and shepherd them. It's only common sense. Okay, so yeah, very interesting, right? So you can see here that the sheep are the fruit, is what we're looking for. Yeah. Let's go to Luke 17. Luke 17. So Luke 17, we'll say 7 through 10 here. It's kind of I'm going to do with that? I'm going to leave that till the end. It'll fit in more nicely toward the end of this study when we really get deep into this. And let's just look now at Acts 20:28. So go to Acts 20:28. Acts 20:28 says, "Therefore take heed to yourselves and to all the flock, among which the Ruach HaKodesh has made you overseers." See that? To shepherd the assembly of Elohim, which we just read about, right? Which he has purchased with his own blood. For I know this, that after my departure, savage wolves shall come in among you, not sparing the flock. And from among you men shall arise, speaking distorted teachings, to draw away the Talmudim after themselves. All right, so there you go, man. So now we can see the danger that the shepherd has to watch out for, the savage wolves coming to devour the flock, right? And then they may even take on the appearance of workers of light or sheep, but they are not. And so you really have to be on your toes to be a good shepherd, right? But notice here it says, take heed to yourselves and to the flock, all the flock, among which the Ruach HaKodesh had made you overseers to shepherd the assembly of Elohim, which he has purchased with his own blood. So the owner, the true shepherd, is the Ruach HaKodesh, or Yahuwah. It's not us. It's not the hirelings, okay? But we are put in a position that we're responsible for not only finding the lost sheep. If one goes astray, we need to go out and search for it and bring it back, right? Because your fruit must endure. We're also responsible to watch out for the savage wolves and keep the savage wolves away from the flock so that they don't devour them. And why are they wanting to do it? Well, obviously the savage wolf would be Satan and his people. They want to draw them the flock and draw the sheep back away and do the world again after themselves so that they worship them, follow them and worship them and heed to them. You see that? And again, these flocks, the flock grows as we find more lost sheep. But we don't want to lose the ones that have been found. They're extremely important to Yahuwah. And so we have great responsibility on us to shepherd the assembly of Elohim and watch out for the savage wolves. That's what a good shepherd does. He doesn't sleep on duty. He keeps his eyes peeled for the predators while the sheep are grazing on the manna from heaven, if you will, the living waters, drinking the living waters and everything, eating the living words, taking in the living words, right? Eating green pastures. That's what those pastures are. Going through the door, in and out the door to pastures, right? Green pastures. It's good pastures, good healthy food, right? High in protein. That's what it is. It's the words of Yahuwah, the living words, the manna from heaven, the living waters, Ruach HaKodesh, all that. Everybody seeing that? Should be starting to see that now. Okay, let's look at 1 Peter 2:25. It says, "For you were like sheep going astray, but have now returned to the shepherd and overseer of your lives." Okay, so if you're a sheep that went astray, like little sheep do, all right, and you got lost, and then you found somebody found you, brought you back, or you were able to find your way back. You have now returned to the shepherd and overseer of your lives. Then what do? You join the flock and you eat the green pastures from the green pastures, which is the words of Yahuwah. See that? So don't wander off too far, little sheep. Okay, so 1 Peter 5:1-11 says, "Therefore, as a fellow elder and a witness of the sufferings of Mashiach, and also a sharer of the esteem that is to be revealed, I appeal to the elders among you. Shepherd the flock of Elohim, which is among you, serving as overseers, not by compulsion, but voluntarily, not out of greed for filthy gain, but eagerly, neither as being masters over those entrusted to you, but being examples to the flock. And when the chief shepherd appears, you shall receive the never fading crown of esteem." Wow. "In the same way, you younger ones, be subject to elders, and gird yourselves with humility toward one another. For Elohim resists the proud and gives favor to the humble. Humble yourselves, then, under the mighty hand of Elohim, so that he exalts you in due time, casting all your worry upon him, for he is concerned about you. Be sober, watch, because your enemy, the devil, walks to and fro like a roaring lion, seeking who he may devour. Resist him, firm in the belief, knowing that the same hardships are experienced by your brotherhood in the world. And the Elohim of all favor, who called you to his everlasting esteem by Mashiach Yahusha, after you have suffered a while, himself perfect, establish, strengthen, and settle you. To him be the esteem and the might forever and ever. Amen." So there you go. You can see the importance now, or at least the relationship between the shepherd, the sheep, the fruit, the which are our men, which is Yisrael and Yehuda, Ephraim and Yehuda, if you will. Okay, let's get into some Matthew 7 then. All right, now pay close attention to this one. This one will go over your head very quickly if you don't pay attention. Okay, let's pay attention here, guys. Here we go. Matthew 7:12-33. "Therefore, whatever you wish men to do to you, do also to them. For this is the Torah and the prophets. Ooh. Enter in through the narrow gate, because the gate is wide and the way is broad that leads to destruction, and there are many who enter in through it. Because the gate is narrow and the way is hard pressed, which leads to life, and there are few who find it. But beware of the false prophets who come to you in sheep's clothing, but inwardly they are savage wolves. By their fruits you shall know them. Are grapes gathered from thorn bushes or figs from thistles? Okay. So this is telling you it's fairly easy to recognize the false shepherds, okay, the false prophets, the infiltrators, if you will, because they don't speak truth. If they're not speaking about the Basura of Yahusha, and they're basing all this knowledge, basing everything on knowledge and science and all this other stuff, and their hearts far from Yahusha, from the true shepherd, that should tell you right there that you're talking to somebody who's not in the fold. They're not in the sheepfold. They're not part of the everlasting covenant. Matter of fact, you should be able to recognize Yahusha speaking to you through them. Fairly easy to recognize the master. I don't think Yahusha would be talking to us about some of the things that people like to quarrel and strive about on YouTube here, on different forums. Okay, so by their fruit you shall know them. Fairly easy to recognize that they're false teachers, false prophets, false shepherds, okay? So every good tree yields good fruit, but a rotten tree yields wicked fruit. A good tree is unable to yield wicked fruit, and a rotten tree to yield good fruit. Every tree that does not bear good fruit is cut down and thrown into the fire. See that? Every tree that does not bear good fruit is cut down and thrown into the fire. That's the chosen ones, the lost sheep. So then by their fruits you shall know them. Not everyone who says to me, did y'all catch that? Every tree that does not bear good fruit is cut down and thrown into the fire. The fruits, the lost sheep. Okay? Is the fruit their actions, their personalities, their traits? Yeah, it can be. In a different context or a different sense of the meaning. But here in a deeper meaning, this is talking about a good tree is going to bear good fruit. Means you're going to find the lost sheep and then you're going to shepherd them, take care of them. You found the fruit, a fruit that's going to get you into the reign of Yahuwah in a deeper sense. Okay, of understanding or a spiritual insight, if you will. Not everyone who says to me, now listen to this. So then by their fruits you shall know them. Not everyone who says to me. So obviously these false prophets, false teachers, false shepherds will also be saying these things here. Not everyone who says to me, but some will, but some won't. Okay. Master shall enter into the reign of the Shamayim. Okay. So not everybody calling him master, but just because they call him master or even call him by his name doesn't mean that they're part of the sheepfold. Okay. They could still be false shepherds. Shall enter to the reign of the Shamayim. But he who is doing the desire of my Father in the Shamayim. So what is the desire of my Father in the Shamayim? The desire of Yahuwah is for you to find the lost sheep of Yisharal, to gather fruit, to work the harvest, to increase his kingdom. That's the desire of his Father. That's why he sent the Son, so he could gather the fruit, the lost sheep of Yisrael. Yahushua himself even said so. He said, I came to find that which was lost. I only came for the lost of Yisharal. Now listen closely to this. Master, Master, many shall say to me in that day, Master, Master, have we not prophesied in your name and cast out demons in your name and done many mighty works in your name? So maybe they did do all them things. Okay? And then I shall declare to them, this is Yahushua saying this, I never knew you. Depart from me, you who work lawlessness. So if you think about this kind of a little bit deeper here, on some deeper levels or higher levels, whatever you want to say, it's amazing that they prophesied in his name, they cast out demons in his name, they've done many mighty works in his name. Okay, so they were doing things that they were supposed to do. Okay, but here he says, I never knew you. Depart from me, you who work lawlessness. So this, right off the jump street, appears or insinuates that they were not obeying Torah because they were Torahless. They didn't have Torah. Okay, is why he didn't know them. Okay, this is what it sounds like. But look, man, if they were casting out demons in his name, prophesying in his name, and did many works in his name, it seems like to me they did know him. And they not only that, but they had the Ruach in them. Because man, a human being, cannot do any of these things without the Ruach HaKodesh in them, chasing out demons, prophesying, and doing many mighty works. Is impossible for a human, for a man. So they couldn't be doing these things on their own. They had to be under the influence of the Ruach. They had to have the indwelling spirit of Yahushua in them to be performing these type works. Even Yahushua himself, in his fleshly nature, his human nature, said, I do none of these works of myself. These are the works of the Father. The Father does these things. It wasn't him, the human nature, doing them. It was the Ruach in him doing it. Yahuwah. It was the Father doing the works, not the fleshly man, not the Lamb of Yahuwah, not the sacrifice, not the arm of Yahuwah, but Yahuwah himself doing the works. So this implies then that they must have had the Ruach. So this literally throws up a curveball, doesn't it? We say, well, wait a minute now. What you talking about, Brother Mark? Well, look, if these people was doing all these works in his name because they had, and they have certainly had to have had the Ruach, because man can't do these things they said they were doing. Ain't no man going to go in there and cast no demon. We found that out over in Acts when the sons of that high priest was running around trying to chase out demons in the name of Yahushua that Paul calls on. Remember? And the demon come out and said, look, I know Yahushua, I know Paul, but who are you? And he tore him to pieces. Even though he was using the same name Paul used, he still tore him to pieces. Why? Because he didn't have the Ruach HaKodesh in him doing the exorcism. He was trying to do it on his own in the flesh. So obviously then if these people were doing it, they had to have the Ruach. So then why then does Yahuwah just say, I never knew you, depart from me, you who work lawlessness? Because they were unworthy servants. That's why. They were unworthy servants, meaning that they gathered no fruit. They gathered no fruit. So he never knew them and commanded them to depart from him, and they weren't allowed to enter into the reign of Yahuwah. It's the only thing that makes sense. Because if they weren't obeying Torah, or if they were Torah-less, they wouldn't have been able to perform these mighty works that only Yahuwah can do. He doesn't even hear the prayers of those who don't know Torah. Their prayers are an abomination. So why would he work through them to perform these mighty works, and they don't even know him if they're lawless? They wouldn't. See what I'm saying? So to me, the only thing that can make any type of sense out of this is they gathered no fruit. And therefore, he saw them as unworthy servants, lawless, disobedient, because they didn't obey his commission to go out and work the harvest, gather the fruit, find my lost sheep. They didn't do it. Very interesting, isn't it? Okay, now let's go over to Luke 17 and look at that real quick. And then we'll even come back to it. But now that we said that, let's look at Luke 17, 7 through 10. But who of you, having a servant plowing or shepherding, being a shepherd now, watching over your flock, would say to him, when he has come in from the field, come immediately and sit down to eat? But would he not rather say to him, prepare somewhat for my supper, and gird yourself and serve me while I eat and drink, and afterward you shall eat and drink? Would he thank that servant because he did what he was commanded? I think not. Just same over here. Master, we did not prophesy in your name. We cast out demons in your name. We've done many mighty works in your name. Would he thank that servant because he did what he was commanded? I think not. So also you, when you have done all that you were commanded, you did all that, say, we are unworthy servants. We are unworthy servants. We have done what was our duty to do. Nothing more and nothing less. So guess what? You're an unworthy servant because you gathered no fruit. You didn't find his lost sheep. All right. Stick around because at the end, I'm going to give you undisputable proof here. What we're saying here this evening is true. And you need to get it, you need to understand it, and you need to get working the harvest. Quit kicking back and thinking all you got to do is argue with people in the chat room, because that ain't going to get you nowhere, but throw it into the lake of fire perhaps. Matthew 10. Matthew 10, 5 through 16 says, Yahusha sent these 12 out, having commanded them, saying, do not go into the way of the Gentile, and do not enter a city of the Samaritans, but rather go to the lost sheep of the house of Yisharal. And as you go, proclaim, saying, the reign of the Shemaim has drawn near. heal the sick, cleanse the lepers, raise the dead, cast out demons. You have received without paying, give without being paid. Do not acquire gold or silver or copper for your money belts, or a bag for the journey, or 2 undergarments, or sandals, or staffs, for the worker is worthy of his food. And into whatever city or village you enter, ask who is worthy in it, and stay there until you leave. And as you enter into a house, greet it. And if the house is worthy, let your peace come upon it. But if it is not worthy, let your peace return to you. And whoever does not receive you nor hear your words when you leave that house or city, shake off the dust from your feet. Truly I say to you, it shall be more bearable for the land of Sodom and Gomorrah in the yom of judgment than for that city. See, I send you out as sheep in the midst of wolves. Therefore be wise as serpents and innocent as doves. Wise as serpents and innocent of doves. Innocent as doves. Okay. So sheep in the midst of wolves. So be careful, sheep. See, even in here, you found the lost sheep and fattened you up. You've been eating in green pastures. He's going to send you out. Why is he sending you out? Why? Why did he send these ones out? Send him out to sheep in the midst of wolves. For what? To spread the Basora of Yahuwah? Yeah, but what does that accomplish? When we spread the Basora of Yahusha, what does that accomplish? The lost sheep hear his voice and they follow him. So you're looking, he's sending you out, okay, to look for the other sheep, the lost sheep. Okay, and by spreading the Basora of Yahusha, they get to hear his voice coming from you, and they recognize him, and they come running, and they follow him. And now they've been found. You see that? It's all got to do with the lost sheep, man. All right, so go to Matthew 15, 21 through 28. It says, and Yahusha went out from there and withdrew in the parts of Zor and Zidon. And seeing Asha of Canaan came from those borders and cried out to him, saying, have compassion on me, Master, son of David. My daughter is badly demon-possessed. But he did not answer her a word. And his Talmudim, or pupils, came and asked him, saying, send her away, because she cries after us. And he answering said, I was not sent except to the lost sheep of the house of Yisharal. But she came and was bowing to him, saying, Master, help me. And he answering said, It is not good to take the children's bread, the bread from the manna from heaven, the bread of life, the living words, and throw it to the little dogs. The dogs were the Gentiles. But she said, of course, a little dog would be the child of a Gentile. But she said, yes, Master, for even the little dogs eat the crumbs which fall from their master's table. And Yahusha answering said to her, O Asha, your belief is great. Let it be to you as you desire. And her daughter was healed that very hour. Wow, that's powerful stuff right there now. Just a little bit of the bread from heaven, bread of life, just a crumb, was able to save this little girl, this little Gentile girl. Wow. Is that powerful or is that powerful? But what's totally amazing is what Yahusha said. I was not sent except to the lost sheep of the house of Yisharal. So you better get busy looking for his lost sheep. If you have Yahusha in you, that should be your main, your main agenda is to search out the lost sheep of Yisrael and collect that fruit into your basket. Go to Matthew 18, 10 through 14. It says, see that you do not despise one of these little ones. For I say to you that in the Shemayim, their messengers always see the face of my Father who is in the Shemayim. For the Son of Adam has come to save what was lost. What was lost. So this means there's something specific lost. It can't be everything, but something specific, which is the house of Yisrael. What do you think? If a man has 100 sheep and one of them goes astray, would he not leave the 99 on the mountains going to seek that one that is straying? And if he should find it, truly I say to you, he rejoices more over that sheep than over the 99 that did not go astray. Thus it is not the desire of your Father who is in the Shemayim that one of these little ones should be lost. It's not the desire of Yahuwah that one of these little ones should be lost. So what's the desire of Yahuwah then? It's for you to go out and work the harvest and gather the fruit, which is the lost sheep. His lost sheep. It's not his desire that any of those little ones be lost, any of his sheep be lost. So obviously then his desire is that they all should be found. So get busy seeking out the lost sheep of Yisrael. You see what I'm saying? Yeah, we read that, but here's a different perspective on it, you see, and it puts it all into a better perspective. You get a better understanding out of it. Some people need to hear it twice. Some people need to hear it twice, but said in different ways. And then that's what he just did. Okay, so so Matthew 26:31 says, then Yahusha said to them, all of you shall stumble in me this night, for it has been written, I shall strike the shepherd, and the sheep of the flock shall be scattered. So there you go. So that was the type or the foreshadowing when they arrested Yahusha. All his 12 Talmudim, all the Talmudim scattered, took off and hid. So this is basically foreshadowing the Israel being scattered throughout the nations. Okay. Well, you can see here that at least you should be able to see here that I will strike the shepherd, and the sheep of the flock shall be scattered. Since they're scattered, they will need to be found. Okay, so that's one thing you can see on that. All right, so let's look here now over to Matthew 25. We're almost done with the evidence here within the the book of Yahuwah's truth. And then we're going, now I want to really get deep into this here at the end. So just a few more in here, and then we're going to do it. So Matthew 25, 31 to 34 says, and when the Son of Adam comes in his esteem, and all the set apart messengers with him, then he shall sit on the throne of his esteem. And all the nations shall be gathered before him, and he shall separate them one from another, as a shepherd separates his sheep from the goats. And he shall set the sheep on his right hand, but the goats on the left. Then the sovereign shall say to those on his right hand, come, you blessed of my Father, and inherit the reign prepared for you from the foundation of the world. And so this is talking about the second resurrection and the white throne judgment. Okay, so there's going to be a separation here between from sheep's and from the goats. Okay, so this is indicating then for sure that there is definitely some type of other flock involved here. So we look over here then at Revelations 7, 9 and 10. It says, after this I looked and saw a great throng, which before that it describes 12,000 from each tribe of Israel, okay, which is the bride, which will be the first flock. After this, I looked and saw a great throng which no one was able to count. No one was able to count. Out of all the nations and tribes and peoples and tongues, standing before the throne and before the Lamb, dressed in white robes and palm branches in their hands, and crying out with a loud voice, saying, deliverance belongs to our Yahuwah, who sits on the throne, and to the Lamb. So there you go. It's a throng, a great throng which no one can count. They're in white robes and with palm trees, which means they have immortal bodies on. This is a huge flock of people. It's the other flock that he is speaking about. Okay, so he separated the sheep from the goats. And so going back over then to Matthew 20, 1 through 16, it says, for the reign of the Shemaim is like a man, a householder who went out early in the morning to hire workers for his vineyard. And when he had agreed with the workers for a silver piece a day, he sent them into his vineyard. And he went out about the third hour and saw others standing idle in the marketplace, and said to them, you too go into the vineyard, and whatever is right I shall pay you. And they went, having gone out again about the 6th and the 9th hour, he did likewise. And about the 11th hour, having gone out, he found others standing idle, and said to them, why do you stand here idle all day? And they said to him, because no one hired us. He said to them, you too go into the vineyard, and whatever is right you shall receive. So they're out he's sending people to work the harvest. And when evening came, the master of the vineyard said to his manager, call the workers and pay them their wages, beginning with the last to the first. And when those came who were hired about the 11th hour, they each received a single piece, a silver piece. And when the first came, they thought they would receive more, but they too received each a silver piece. And when they received it, they grumbled against the house owner, saying, these last have worked 1 hour, and you made them equal to us who have borne the burden in the heat of the day. But he answering said to one of them, friend, I do you no wrong. Did you not agree with me for a silver piece? Take yours and go, but I wish to give to this last man as also to you. Is it not right for me to do what I wish with my own? Or is your eye evil because I am good? Thus the last shall be first and the first last. For many are called, but a few are chosen. So don't expect any extra pay. If you've been working the harvest long and hard, and these other people are coming in and they start working the harvest, and then Yahusha shows up, we all get the same pay. We're all working the harvest for the same amount of pay, which is everlasting life. That's why we're doing it. We're doing it for everlasting life. Okay, so with that said, then let's get down into some deeper or higher level stuff to prove all this to be correct, okay, so we can see it more clearly. So let's prove here now, look for proof, evidence that we must have fruit. Okay, we must gather fruit and find the lost sheep and endure. Our sheep must endure, and we must present fruit, first fruits to our master in order for him to let us into the reign of Yahuwah. Okay, so with that said, everybody go to John or Yehukanan 15 or 4, I mean. Go to Yehukanan 4. So Yehukanan 4, 34 through 38. Says, Yahusha said to them, my food is to do the desire of him who sent me and to accomplish his work. So what's the desire of him who sent me? Okay, it would be to find the lost sheep. He told us, I only came to find the lost sheep of Yisrael. That's his Father's desire. Do you not say there are still 4 moons and the harvest comes? See, I say to you, lift up your eyes and see the fields, for they are white for harvest already. He who is reaping receives a reward and gathers fruit for everlasting life. See, and gathers fruit for everlasting life. You have to. So that both he who is sowing and he who is reaping rejoice together. For in this the word is true. One sows and another reaps. You get to share in that fruit if both of you worked on it. I sent you to reap that for which you have not labored. Others have labored, and you have entered into their labors. So this is pretty clear, man, that Yahuwah does this not because he has to, but because with allowing us to reap the fruits of his labor and the labor of others, the prophets and so forth and so on, he allows us to reap this fruit so that we may be accepted into the reign of Yahuwah at his second coming. And we may have fruit to present to him, first fruits. You can't show up empty-handed. It's a type and a foreshadow on that in the Tanakh as well. You can't show up empty-handed. You have to bring the sacrifice, the offering, which is the first fruits. You can't show up empty-handed. Okay, so this is pretty clear. That especially here, we say, Yahushua said to them, "My food is to do the desire of him who sent me and to accomplish his work," which is what? Recounseling, finding the lost sheep of Yisrael and recounseling with them. That's what it's all about, man. And he'll give you the fruit for your labors in order to present first fruits to him when he comes in his second coming, the reign of Yahuwah. Very powerful right there. Okay, let's go to John 15 now. So we can see this in a little bit better. Okay. John 15, pretty much 1. Let's go from 1 to 8, first of all. I am the true vine, and my Father is the gardener. Every branch in me that bears no fruit, he takes away. All right, so this is talking about people that have engrafted, man. This is talking about those in the everlasting covenant. See what I'm saying? They have the Ruach. If they're not producing fruit, which is finding the lost sheep, he throws them away. He takes them away. You seeing that? This is gigantic insight here, folks. This is huge stuff, man. I am the true vine, and my Father is the gardener. Every branch in me that bears no fruit, you didn't find any of the lost sheep, he takes away. And every branch that bears fruit, he prunes. Oh, he prunes so that it bears more fruit. So be prepared for the pruning, folks. If there's still some things about you, some things in your life that you haven't put away yet, some old habits that you're still clinging to, be prepared for the pruning, because he wants to make you more like Yahusha so that you bear more fruit. In other words, your whole existence, your agenda is going to evolve around working the harvest and finding his lost sheep. He wants more. He wants you to find more and bring him more fruit. Remember, he's being compassionate on us. He's allowing us to reap what we have not labored, so that we may enter into the reign. Take advantage of it. Don't neglect his mercy and compassion, man. That's so powerful. Very powerful stuff. I can't even hardly get past that. You are already clean because of the word which I have spoken to you. Abide in me and I in you. See, so you're already clean. You already got the Ruach HaKodesh. As the branch is unable to bear fruit of itself, because you can't do it yourself, you have to have the Ruach HaKodesh in you, unless it remains in the vine. So neither you, unless you remain in me. See that? So you have to remain in him and him in you. That's what he's telling you. You can't do it on your own. I am the vine, and you are the branches. He who remains in me and I in him, he bears much fruit. Much fruit. Because without me, you are able to do nothing. So see, you have to have the Ruach HaKodesh in you just to go out and work the harvest. and gather the fruit, which is the lost sheep of Yisrael. Okay, it's not joy and peace and happiness and patience. It's not that. This fruit is, speaking of the lost sheep of Yisrael, first fruits. Matter of fact, it's his bride. If anyone does not remain in me, he is thrown away as a branch and dries up. Whew. If you're not collecting fruit, you may throw it away and dry up, man. Every branch in me that bears no fruit, he takes away. See that? Anyone that does not remain in me, you can't, if you don't remain in him, you can't collect fruit. He is thrown away as a branch and dries up. And they gather them and throw them into the fire. Remember, they had the Ruach. And they are burned. If you remain in me and my words remain in you, you shall ask whatever you wish, and it shall be done for you. So start asking him if you want to, if he'll let you work the harvest and gather more fruit and find the lost sheep of Israel, because that's what your commission is. I mean, that's what you need to do. Ask for it. And this, my Father, is esteemed, that you bear much fruit, and you shall be my pupils. There you go. So you esteem Yahuwah by finding the lost sheep of Yisrael, man. In the Hebrew mindset, children are fruit. You're finding the children of light. You're finding fruit. First fruits, firstborn. Okay, the bride is in the congregation of the firstborn that's recorded in the Shemayim. You become part of the congregation of the firstborn. Why? Because once you enter and graft into Yisrael, you become Yisrael, then you are the firstborn of Yahuwah. Has nothing to do with your earthly birth position among your siblings. That's silliness. You know, so there's people out there teaching that the firstborn in every family is part of Israel. That's not true at all. Okay, stay in that same chapter and go over to, and let's go look at 16, verse 16. You did not choose me, but I chose you and appointed you that you should go and bear fruit. See that? There's your commission. Go and bear fruit. And that your fruit should endure. If it doesn't endure, it doesn't count. So that whatever you ask the Father in my name, he might give you eternal life. So there you go. There's a lot of proof right there to that. Now let's look at John 4. That's what John 4 says. John 4, 34 through 36. No, that's okay. We already read that. That's the part about we reap that of which we have not labored, others have labored. Okay, so that's what that's about. Okay, so then let's go to Luke then. Luke 17. Wow. All right, Luke 17, 7 through 10. But who of you having a servant plowing or shepherding? Okay, we already read that, but I want to read this again because I wanted to come. Remember, I said we're going to go back to that. so we can understand it more clearer now that we went over John 15. By the way, is what I call the Nazarene chapter. It's an extremely important chapter for the Nazarene, Yehukanan 15. But you, who of you having a servant plowing or shepherding would say to him when he has come in from the field, come immediately and sit down to eat? But would he not rather say to him, prepare somewhat for my supper and gird yourself and serve me while I eat and drink, and afterward you shall eat and drink? Would he thank that servant because he did what he was commanded? I think not. So also you, when you have done all that you were commanded for your own salvation, okay, your own deliverance, say, we are unworthy servants. We have done what was our duty to do. You must collect fruit. You have to go up and beyond your own salvation and collect fruit for the master. Find the lost sheep. That's what he wants you to do. See the connection now? Okay, let's look at, let's see, Luke 8, 5 or 15. And that on the good soil are those who, having heard the word with a noble and good heart, retain it and bear fruit with endurance. See that? So look at it, take that back over to John, if you will. Powerful statement there. It connects real perfectly, really, with John, Yehukanan 15, 16. Let's go back to that. Yehukanan 15, 16. You did not choose me, but I chose you and appointed you, that you should go and bear fruit, and that your fruit should endure. I'll go back over there to Luke 8, 15. And that on the good soil are those who, having heard the word with a noble and good heart, retain it and bear fruit with endurance. You bear fruit with endurance. Wow. Okay. Matthew. Let's look at Matthew. Let's spend some time in Matthew here now. Matthew 12. Matthew 12. Says, and that at that time Yahusha went through the grain fields on the Shabbat. They went through the grain fields on the Shabbat. Wow. What spiritual insights attached to that? Wow. And his Talmudim were hungry and began to pluck heads of grain to eat. And when the Prushim saw it, they said to him, look, your Talmudim are doing what is not right to do on the Shabbat. But he said to them, have you not read what Daud did when he was hungry, he and those who were with him? How he went into the house of Elohim and ate the showbread, which was not right for him to eat, nor for those who were with him, but only for the priests? Or did you not read in the Torah that on the Shabbat the priest in the set-apart place profane the Shabbat and are blameless? But I say to you that in this place there is one greater than the set-apart place. And if you had known what this means, I desire compassion and not offering, you would not have condemned the blameless. For the son of Adam is master of the Shabbat, and having left there, he went into their assembly. And see, there was a man having a lame hand, and they asked him, saying, is it right to heal on the Shabbat, so as to accuse him? And he said to them, What man is there among you who has one sheep, and if it falls into a pit on the Shabbat, shall not take hold of it and lift it out? How much more worth is a man than a sheep? So it is right to do good on the Shabbat. Wow. So what does that mean spiritually? That means we can work the harvest on the Shabbat. That means that we are still able to find the lost sheep and work the harvest, okay, on Shabbat. Now listen to this. Say that you've been working the harvest and you've only got yourself one sheep. It says you found one fruit and you're hanging on to that fruit so it endures, right? Because you need that fruit, at least one fruit to get in with, right? You need to make that offering. You cannot show up empty-handed. You have to have an offering, a sacrifice, right? And that one sheep is yours, okay? As that one sheep falls into a pit on the Shabbat, so say that your sheep goes back into the world on the Shabbat or break Shabbat or something, you're going to go after that sheep. You're not going to say, oh, man, you messed up, man. You're going to mess me up. You're screwing up. Okay, you know what? I'll wait till Shabbat's over and I'll be over there to rescue and get you out of that hellhole you're in, that pit. No, you're not. You don't have to do that. You go over there and rescue that sheep, man. You go get your sheep. Go claim your fruit. Help that sheep endure by feeding him. Feed that sheep. Green pasture. In the green pasture, feed him the living waters, the life, the bread of life. Living waters. I mean, get that sheep out of that pit. Don't let him stay in that pit till he gets beyond rescuing, that he dies. Then you're going to lose your fruit. See that? Look at it. And he said to them, what man is there among you who has one sheep, and if it falls into the pit on the Shabbat, shall not take hold of it and lift it out? How much more worth is a man than a sheep? See that? You get your fruit out of that pit, even on Shabbat. That's how important it is to find that lost sheep and for that sheep to endure, for that fruit to endure. It's extremely important. Don't let nobody fool you. You know, that's like saying, say some old lady gets in a wreck and she's on the side road somewhere and she's hit a tree and she's forehead's bleeding and stuff, you know, or whatever, right in front of your house, and you can see her, and then you holler out at her, say, hey, if you would have wrecked on any other day except for the Shabbat, I'd come out and help you. But since you did it on Shabbat, I can't do nothing for you. I'm sorry. But if you can hang in there and stay alive until the sun goes down, I'll come out there and rescue you. So then the sun goes down, you go out there and she's laying there dead. Are you in big trouble? Or are you good to go because you obeyed Shabbat? Or are you in big trouble? I'd say you're in big trouble. So let's use some common sense here, especially when it goes to when we're talking about the lost sheep. All right, so 25. Let's look at Matthew 25. Matthew 25, starting in verse 15. This is the parable about the talents here, which should shed a lot of light on the subject. And let me see. Okay, services over this person to them. Okay, so for it is like a man going from home who called his own servants and delivered his possessions to them. And to one he gave 5 talents, and to another 2, and to another 1. To each according to his own ability, and went from home. Okay, so I'm going to give you a clue. This isn't about how good you can manage money, okay? This is all about fruit and the lost sheep. And he who had received the 5 talents went and worked with them and made another 5 talents. So him and them 5 sheep went out and worked, and he worked with them, and they collected 5 more. So each one of the sheep that this man was given to watch over was able to find one sheep of his own, a piece of fruit of his own. That's what it sounds like. And made another 5 talents. In the same way, he with the 2 also, he gained 2 more. But he who had received the 1 went away and dug in the ground and hid the silver of his master. He didn't get him up out of the pit. Left him in the pit, man, because it was Shabbat. And after a long time, the master of those servants came and settled accounts with them. And he who had received 5 talents came and brought 5 other talents, saying, Master, you delivered to me 5 talents, or 5 lost sheep. See, I've gained 5 more talents, or lost sheep, besides them. And his master said to him, Well done, good and trustworthy servant. You were trustworthy over a little, I shall set you over much. Enter into the joy of your master. I'm going to set them over a lot of sheep. Then he who had received 2 talents came and said, Master, you delivered to me 2 talents. See, I have gained 2 more talents besides them. His master said to him, Well done, good and trustworthy servant. You were trustworthy over a little. I shall set you over much. Enter into the joy of your master. And the one who had received the 1 talent also came and said, Master, I knew you to be a hard man, reaping where you have not sown, and gathering where you have not scattered seed. And being afraid, I went and hid your talent in the ground. And he put him in the pit and left him in the pit. Didn't go get him out of the pit. See, you have what is yours. See, you have what is yours, which is me. You have me, I'm yours. You still have me. Me. You have me. Let me in. And his master answering said to him, You wicked and lazy servant. You knew that I reap where I have not sown and gather where I have not scattered seed. Then you should have put my silver with the bankers, and at my coming I would have received back my own with interest. Therefore take away the talent from him and give it to him who possesses the 10 talents. For to everyone who possesses, more shall be given. And he shall have overflowing. But from him who does not possess, even what he possesses shall be taken away, which is his own salvation. See that? It's his own salvation. And throw the worthless servant out into the outer darkness, where there shall be weeping and gnashing of teeth. What's the outer darkness? Non-existence. Total annihilation. Non-existence, folks. No light at all in the outer darkness. It means non-existence. Wow. So this I promise you that this parable is not about how well you can manage money for Yahuwah. Okay, he doesn't need you to manage money for him. He owns everything. He is rich beyond measure. Okay? He doesn't need your advice on money. But what he needs for you to do is go find his lost sheep of Yisrael. He needs you to work the harvest and find the lost sheep. Those are what the talents represent here. Men, not money. It's all about men, about his bride. Okay, so now Let's get a look here at Matthew 21. Matthew 21. We're getting close to the end here now, so hang with me. Matthew 21, 14. Matthew 21, starting in verse 14 to 32. And blind and lame ones came to him in the set apart place, and he healed them. But when the chief priests and scribes saw the wonders which he did, and the children crying out in the set apart place, and saying, Hosanna to the Son of David, they were greatly displeased, and said to him, Do you hear what they say? And Yahushua said to them, Yes. Have you never read, out of the mouth of babes and nurslings, you have perfected praise? Wow. Okay, so Hosanna means deliver us, deliver us. And having left them, he went out of the city of Bethania and spent the night there. And returning to the city early in the morning, he became hungry. And seeing a single fig tree by the way, he came to it and found nothing on it but leaves, and said to it, Let no fruit grow on you ever again. Okay, look. A fig tree represents Israel. And so a single fig tree would be a single Israelite. Okay. So that would be like one person. All right. So one person having nothing but leaves, no fruit. He got mad. They didn't have any fruit. Okay. Didn't find any lost sheep. So he said, Let no fruit grow on you ever again. Wow. So maybe they lost a fruit or two. Maybe not. And immediately the fig tree withered. Immediately it withered. Why? Because he said, Never again will fruit grow. Will you gather fruit? You'll never find another lost sheep. Man, he punished that single fig tree for not having fruit. You know, are you seeing it? Are y'all picking up what Scripture's laying down here? You see the importance of gathering the fruit or finding the lost sheep of Yisrael? And the Talmudim seeing it marveled and saying, How did the fig tree wither so soon? Because time was at hand. It's urgency. Remember when we first began this study, how we talked about why is it urgent? You know, why? What's the big rush? How did the fig tree wither so soon? Because you ran out of time. You run out of time. Or perhaps all the lost sheep were found and there was no more to be gotten. And so he remained with no fruit. And Yahuwah, knowing that there was no more fruit, that all his lost sheep had been found, said, You will never gather fruit again. And he withered and died. Powerful stuff, man. If y'all can pick up what this is laying down, it should put shivers up your spine. Okay, and let's look at Luke 13. Go back to Luke. Let's go to Luke 13. So Luke 13, 6 through 9 says, And he spoke this parable. A certain man had a fig tree planted. Okay, the fig tree represents Yisrael. So a fig tree would be a single, fig tree is a single person here, okay? in his vineyard. So this certain man would be Yahusha, okay? And the fig tree planted in his vineyard. Remember, he's the vine, we're the branches. And he came seeking fruit on it and found nothing. No fruit. Did not find any of the lost sheep. And he said to the gardener, which is Yahuwah, look, for 3 years I have come seeking fruit on this fig tree and found none. Giving him 3 years to gather first fruit. Found none. Cut it down. Why does it even make the ground useless? And he answering said to him, Master, leave it this year too, until I dig around it and throw manure. And if indeed it bears fruit, good. But if not so, you shall cut it down. And he was teaching in one of the congregations on the Shabbat. Okay. So we can see this several different ways. We can see this as Yahuwah pruning and engrafting, removing dead branches that bear no fruit, throwing them into the fire, replacing it with, engrafting it with wild fruit that is producing fruit or hope to produce fruit. And we can also see this as, say, an individual who's out working the harvest and for Yahusha and has not produced any fruit. And so Yahuwah wanted to cut him off, and Yahusha asked him to wait 1 more year. Let me dig around it and throw manure. So let me work on him some more and fertilize him, and see if he'll understand that he needs to go find lost sheep and produce fruit and have something to offer on the day of his deliverance. And if he doesn't after a year, then cut him off. But let me give him another shot and try to get him going and steer him in the right direction. This could be, say, me or another person, that has a lost sheep, had found a lost sheep, but this lost sheep is not producing any fruit himself, and so the hope is that they need to produce fruit as well in order to endure. So in order for him to be your fruit, and so that your fruit can endure, then he has to find his own fruit so he can endure, and that way you both make it in, right? See what I'm saying? So it's kind of like I don't want to say a pyramid scheme, but it's like it's a domino effect. So in a way, it's why it's important to find more than one fruit for yourself. Because if all you have is one, boy, you got to work that hard. You're going to have to dig around it. You're going to have to put manure on it. You're going to have to help it along, keep it going, strengthen it, support it, because you don't want to lose it. Because if he doesn't produce fruit, okay, then he's going to be eliminated. And now you're going to be sitting there with no fruit again. So if you find one, hopefully it endures for you, and he produces his own fruit, and that one produces its own fruit, and so on and so forth. But it's like a domino effect, But I wouldn't stop. In other words, if you find one fruit, one lost sheep, I wouldn't stop there. For insurance reasons, I would continue to hunt the lost sheep, fish for the lost sheep, hunt the lost sheep, gather in the fruit. And the more you get, the safer you are of being able to present first fruits to Yahuwah on the day of your deliverance. Okay, on the day of his second coming. All right. All righty. And then last but not least, Let's look at Genesis 1:28 real quick here. Genesis 1:28. So Genesis 1:28 says, and Elohim blessed them, and Elohim said to them, bear fruit and increase, and fill the earths and subdue it, and rule over the fish of the sea, and over the birds of the Shemayim, and over the creatures moving on the earths. So there you go. Elohim blessed them and said, bear fruit and multiply or increase. Okay. And so spiritually, we can see that then as bearing fruit in this age here of finding the lost sheep of Yisrael. Okay, so bear fruit and multiply. Your fruit has to multiply. It has to endure. It has to increase. The borders of the reign of Shemayim by adding others to it. Okay, and look here now at Ephesians 1:4-5, comparing it to Genesis 1:26, of course. It says, Ephesians 4:5 says, even as he chose us in him before the foundation of the world, that we should be set apart and blameless before him in love, having previously established us to adoption as sons through Yahushua Mashiach to himself, according to the good pleasure of his desire. Okay, so here we need to see that his blessings for increase is upon us. Okay, and he chose us to do this before the foundations of the world. Okay, so in other words, if he chose us to do this before the foundations of the world, then this could be exactly why, I don't know if anybody's ever thought about this, but could be why Yahuwah allows sin to multiply. And what I mean by that is, when men fell and we multiplied, we were fruitful and multiplied, so did sin. And so sin, through the original sin, was part of our DNA, part of our who we are. And so we passed that sin on down through the generations, because scripture says through one man all have sinned. So and sin even grew as well. And so people lived longer at first, to be 1,000 years old, say 900 some years old. And then the lifespan of a man has decreased dramatically down to like 81 now, 82, whatever it is, because of sin. Because sin has gotten worse and men have become worse sinners. And so our lifespan has become shorter and shorter and shorter as we became greater and greater sinners. So why did Yahuwah allow this sin to multiply like that? Why didn't he just wipe it totally out instead of allowing it to continue on? And the reason is so what we just read here, that he chose us in him before the foundation of the world, that we should be Kodesh and blameless before him in love. So, in other words, he allowed this to happen so all the lost sheep would be found, for all those who he had chosen in him before the foundations of the world would be born. Okay, although through sin, they would be born, and then they would be found, and then they would be cleaned up and recounsel. He would recounsel with them, and then he would be able to be in him and them in him and go off into eternal life, live everlasting life together with them. Because he chose them before the foundations of the earth. See what I'm saying? So this is why he's allowed us to be fruitful and multiply in order to reveal those who have been chosen before the foundations of the world were laid. And that's why it's so critical that we all work the harvest as hard as we can and find the lost sheep, because time's running out. But I'm fairly confident that Yahuwah has this all planned out so that none of his lost sheep, the ones that he had chosen before the foundations of the earth, will be lost. That they'll all be found and saved and delivered and go on into eternal reign with him, into the reign of Yahuwah forever. And so in the meantime, we all have to get busy, because if he chose us to do this, to find the lost sheep before he even created anything, then he knew that we would do that exact thing. And so we need to fulfill his will and his desire, the work of Yahuwah, and finding the lost sheep of Yisrael, and so that he can take them, marry them, and take them off into the eternal reign with him to live forever and ever. All right. So that's about it. That's the end of the study. I hope most of you, I think, stuck around for it, and thank you for that. And I just hope we all have we now understand what we're supposed to be doing. A lot of people say, okay, I've been, I repented, confessed, and was water immersed. I received the Ruach HaKodesh, and I'm obedient now. And now what? Am I just supposed to stay locked in my house away from the world? And as long as I stay away from all those pagan holidays, and I don't go back to drinking and whoring around and all that kind of stuff, I'm good to go, I guess. I'll just get on the internet once a week and watch Lou White, and I'll be good to go. But that's far from the truth. Okay, we all been commissioned. We all have been given a job to work the harvest. Going to send out the fishermen to fish them. Going to send out the hunters to hunt them. You're going to send out the workers to work the harvest. Okay, so that's what we are supposed to do. Now, here's the thing. Some people are going to say, well, I don't know what to do, Brother Mark. I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing. I don't even know how to start doing that. I mean, I talk to people at the grocery stores and tell them about the true name. I tell people that Christmas is a pagan holiday, and I go to the bank. Sometimes I'll tell somebody that they shouldn't be bringing Christmas trees in their house. Okay, but this isn't finding the lost sheep. Now, if there happens to be a lost sheep around you, okay, then they'll hear you. If they overhear you, or if you happen to be speaking to one, then Yahuwah just might open their ears to hear what you're saying, and you could rattle their cage. They could wake up and then go home and start investigating, and then Yahuwah will take it from there and teach them and wake them up more and more and more. Okay, then that's your fruit. And as long as they endure, I mean, we may have fruit that we don't even know about. Just a suggestion to someone, or something you said to someone, or they saw this shirt, and you asked what it was, and you said it's you, and they went home and looked it up, and now they're more obedient and more deserving than me or any of us. We don't know. We don't know the person. We don't know where they live. We don't know. We may have fruit that we don't know about, but the fruit that we do know about, we need to be, working hard to help them endure, watching over them, shepherding over them. and watching out for the savage wolves so they don't come and take your fruit from you, devour your fruit, especially the devil. That's what it says he does. Devil goes to and fro like a roaring lion, seeking who he may devour. He wants to devour the sheep, man. He ain't looking for sinners. He's trying to find the sheep of Yisrael and devour them before you find them, or perhaps even you, if you let him get away with it. So what do you do? Well, I mean, you could do what I'm doing or what Lou White does. You could get on video on YouTube or some other, some other outlet, resource or whatever. You can write books. You could sign up to go talk to people, so like in prisons or something, or, an elderly place, hospice place, or a place where elderly people live. You could go visit orphans and talk to the orphans and stuff like that. I mean, there's a lot of things you can do. But if you don't have the energy to do any of those things or think about something different that you could do, one thing you can do, and I don't ever ask this myself, but the more I think about it, maybe I'm being selfish in a way that I'm not letting other people gather fruit off of my labors. And that is if you're on this program or Zoom at noon, the one we do on the 7th day, you could do that, like, share, and subscribe button stuff. Give the thumbs up and leave a comment, subscribe or share to this station, Lou White station, or any other brother and sister out there that you feel is teaching truth, especially the share button, and share it with people on your email list and stuff like that. And perhaps you could gain fruit that way off of my labors. Now, I never asked for that personally. As a matter of fact, this is the first time I think I've ever mentioned people doing that, because I didn't want, it's not a popularity contest for me. I accept how many people Yahusha sends here and who he sends here. And I'm his servant. And so he speaks through me to whoever he sends on here. And I don't want any esteem. I don't want, I got so many subscribers, I have so many thumbs up or comments or any of that kind of stuff, because I didn't want to take any esteem from Yahusha, all esteem to Yahusha. But the more I thought about it, maybe I'm being a little bit greedy by not offering at least some of you to do that, all of you to do that, because you never know, by sharing, subscribing, sharing, thumbs up, leaving comments and stuff like that, who you may touch. Just one of your comments somebody may read it and it may touch their life. And you may never know it until your day of deliverance comes. And you show up there and you're scared, I don't have any fruit. And Yahusha said, oh yeah, you do. You remember that day when you left that comment on Lou White's channel? Well, that touched the heart of one of the lost sheep. Matter of fact, he's standing right next to you. So you never know. I'm just saying. Sometimes, like Scripture says, he allows us to get to gather fruit that we didn't labor for. So I want to do that and go for it. That's maybe one way of gathering fruit. Just saying. Not from me, not from my channel, for my population, because I surely don't want that, but for you. That's just a way that you may be able to gather fruit. Just a suggestion. And I don't want it to go any farther than that. It's the first time I've ever asked that. All right. So get busy and work the harvest. And remember to stay in love with Yahusha. So long, Natsarim, beloved of Yahuwah. See y'all next week.